Yeah.
Hey, use your imagination. That's what I've been doing.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and my name's Gareth and this is Book, Songs and Other Magic, and I'm very excited today because I'm going to do a live stream which is celebrating 1,000 subscribers. So I want to take the chance again to thank anyone that's subscribed to the channel, and if you are curious or you want to have a look around and you do like the sort of stuff I do, please subscribe because it definitely helps the channel. And I'd be interested to know what you think of the video, so please comment on the videos if you can or if you want to. So yeah, it's Halloween and I thought it'd be really nice to do a video about Stephen King. So I wasn't sure what my Halloween videos would be like because I knew at the beginning of October that there was a specific thing I was going to be reading, which was based around the occult Detective October event, which I'm co-hosting. So I've been concentrating on that, but because there was a big slot in the middle of the month where I started reading very slowly because I was so tired, I didn't get a lot of reading done, so I didn't get everything read for that, and I wanted to read some Halloween stuff, which I did. So you would have already seen if you'd have noticed it, the review of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. So I put that up, which is a really cool book. But that was kind of my Halloween video, if you like, which was really cool. Last year I did some recommendations for horror books, which I'd like to do really most years. But anyway, because I wasn't sure I'd get that done, I was really pleased to have got that one recommendation out for Halloween anyway. But then I thought I'd do another video on Halloween itself, which is a Stephen King video. And partly because I've had all my Stephen King videos out recently because I did the Stephen King book tag, and I did that partly because I've been loving everyone else's Stephen King book tag videos anyway. But I've also been doing this library tour, so you won't see these videos yet because they're scheduled up. But one of them is a look through my Stephen King books, and I've got 60 Stephen King books, so clearly I must call myself a fan to have 60 books by him. And there's tons in that collection I haven't read yet, but there's also tons I have, so I definitely have read a fair amount of Stephen King. And I thought it'd be nice now, even though that video is coming up later, it'd be cool because it's Halloween and Stephen King is such a big name in horror, to do my 5 favourite Stephen King books and the 5 next books I'm going to read. So obviously having so many books means I can afford to do one on what I'm going to read, my little TBR. And I think I'll probably stick to it. I mean, I don't know, it's changed a little bit recently, but those are 5 on my radar. But I want to talk about my 5 favourite books first. I'm going to do it in reverse order as well. So I'll start from number 5 and I'll get to number 1. And I think some of them are predictable, but I don't know if all of them are predictable. See what people say. They might say, oh yeah, obviously you're going to pick that. I don't know. But anyway, number 5 for me is Pet Sematary. So Pet Sematary is, I think, a very sensitive, emotive and mature book about grief, basically. And it's plotted really well. It's paced really well. It's the right size, I think. I don't think there's any sense that it's too big, which can be a criticism of King. And the characters are really identifiable. The main character, the sort of dad figure, is you really do empathise with his situation and his emotions. And when it kicks off, when it gets really horrific, you can see how it's all built up to that. It all makes a lot of sense, and yeah, it's just really good. And I think it's very it's not particularly that scary, really. I don't think. I mean, some people they've talked about how scary it was. For me, it wasn't about how scary it was. I just really like the way it's written, and I think the characterization is brilliant. And I do think it's a really good book that explores grief. So, Pet Sematary is my number 5. My number 4 is The Shining. So again, another famous one. This was interesting because I knew the film really well before I read the book. and this is so different to the film. It's so different for all the right reasons. I mean, I do like the film a lot, but this is so much more nuanced, and there's not this sort of there is a sense of madness in it, but the madness is a very different kind of madness, a very different tone to it, and this is not Jack Nicholson madness. This is much more interesting, I think. And his wife's name, I can't remember his wife's name because I read it a while back. Obviously, it's Danny, and what's his wife's name? Oh, Wendy. She is so much better characterized in this film. I think Kubrick missed a beat there when he was just trying to make Shelley Duvall really hysterical, and infamously did it by driving her hysterical herself. So why he didn't just rely on her acting, I don't know. But anyway, that's a very famous behind the scenes story about the way he treated her, which is pretty bad. Yeah, Wendy is so much better characterized in this, and there's so much more to her, and she's a much stronger character, and I think that makes it more interesting. And Danny's more interesting in this as well. The whole thing is so much more interesting. So if you know the film, I'd still say read this, because it really is brilliant. And the hotel has got a really interesting character itself. The Overlook Hotel. That's number 4. Okay, number 3. So the top 3 has been my top 3 for ages, and it's something I'm pretty safe saying. I am going to do a little honourable mention, but that's for a different reason, probably. But Salem's Lot is number 3. Salem's Lot. This was one of the most recent reads, even though it's one of his oldest books. This was one of the most recent reads for me. I've been reading his stuff since I was a teenager, so a long time. But I never got to this one, and I got this one, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Just like my number 2, the way it builds up the town and the way that you get to know the characters, which is very typical of him, but he does it so well. The villain's brilliant. The situation is like you're not sure how they're going to get out of it, and which I think is so important in thrillers and horror books. That tension has to be there, and that tension was there for this. This, to me, this was more tense and thrilling than Pet Sematary. I love the writing in Pet Sematary, but for me, it's not scary or thrilling. This is, and I really liked it a lot. So, Salem's Lot, great vampire story. Is it my favourite grand vampire story? Possibly. Yeah, there's a few I need to read. I need to read Interview with the Vampire, which I got up there, and I need to read Let the Right One In, because I've seen the film and I love it, but I want to read that as well. Maybe I'll do a vampire video one day. But yeah, love it. Absolutely loved it. So number 3 is Salem's Lot. Number 2, this is, I think, underrated. This was the one that I chose as my choice for underrated King book in the Stephen King book tag, and that's Needful Things. So I really, really like the way that it develops, and it does take a while to develop. It's a big one, and you could shave off like 100, 150 pages probably, but I think it would need to have a particular size to it, though. It couldn't be short book because of the way he so expertly paints the town, and you really feel like you know everybody. And why it's really good for this particular book is that this villain sets the town against each other, and that's why I love it. So I love the concept. I love the fact that you can go to the shop and he'll get you what you need for a price, and just that makes me think, oh, that sounds awesome. And then basically the sort of the base characteristics of the people's personality in the town are exploited, and it's just brilliantly done. And when it kicks off, it kicks off big style. So yeah, number 2, I love Needful Things, and I think it's underrated. So number 1, this one does now get rated a lot actually, which is interesting because you either get people saying it or The Stand are people's all-time favourite books by King, and I haven't read them, so I can't include them, but you often get this quite high, which is really nice because it's one of his most recent ones, and it's his 11/22/63. I think this is absolutely brilliant, and I love everything about it. I love the plot. I like the way that it surprises you, because like about a sixth of the way through it, the plot takes another turn and it goes somewhere else, and that chunk of the book that's about that ends up being really important in the overall plot. But this other plot that you didn't know was coming, because you think it's just about JFK, but there's this other plot that happens to do with this woman that he meets. That's got some horrible scenes in it, and it's really good, really, really good. And that's the heart of the book, I think, not the JFK stuff, the other bit. And actually, me saying heart of the book is quite apt as well, because it's got quite a romantic ending. I really like the ending, and I won't spoil it, and I hopefully haven't spoiled it by saying it's a romantic ending. But I think he's good at doing that. Whenever he does that kind of thing, which is not very often, he does it really well. So yeah, I like the way it ended. It was a very nice resolve nice resolve for the story. And a lot of people criticize his endings, but I don't really feel that very often. All the books I've read, I don't really have an issue with the endings, so maybe that discounts me as someone with an important opinion. I don't know, but anyway, I love this book, 11/22/63. Really, really good book, and definitely recommend it. And don't be scared off by the 700 pages, because yeah, you could shave some of it off, but the quality transcends that fault. So yeah, you can fault it, but it's so good. So yeah, 11/22/63 is my favourite Stephen King book, and this is an honourable mention because I do love this book very much, and I don't think it's just because it was the first book I read by him, because since then I've reread it and it's still just as good, and that's Night Shift. And I was really pleased as well when I managed to get another copy of this particular edition, because this was the edition that I borrowed from my sister, so all those years ago when I was about 15 or something. I think I was about 15. And Critters Inc. is in this, and Critters Inc. is one of the best stories ever. But there's loads of good stories in here, and lots of these stories have been made into films, as you can imagine with Stephen King, because I think that's a lot of the reason why he's so popular. So the next 5 books I'm going to read, I need to finish this, so I'm only halfway through this, 4 past midnight, and it's not quite as good as Different Seasons, but for a book of 4 short novels, it's still good. I read half of them, need to read the other half, so that's on my immediate TBR. I'm also going to read the first Dark Tower book, so I wasn't that bothered about missing out the Dark Tower books, because they're the ones I haven't read, but or you know, there's a chunk of those I haven't read. There are others I haven't read, but you know, and I wasn't massively fussed, because even though people absolutely rave about it, I just thought it was such a huge thing, and I'd end up just not retaining the information, and I wouldn't know what's going on, because I just forget big important things about the overall plot because it's so huge. But I don't know, it might be fine. But I was going to read it anyway, because I think it's about time, and I'm curious now, so I'm going to read Gunslinger, see what I think. I'm going to read Mr. Mercedes, because I'm going to take part in this thing that Bad is Rad and Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads are doing, and they are doing the books that lead up to Holly. So by the time we get to that point, I would have bought Holly, but in the meantime, I've got all the other books in the Holly series. So Mr. Mercedes is the first one. There's the other 2 here, which I also haven't read, and then there's also The Outsider, and is that one If It Bleeds? Yeah, and If It Bleeds, I can't believe they're all there. And If It Bleeds is there, which has also got a story featuring Holly. I don't know how that happened, because I've got all this Stephen King stuff around, and they're all a little bunched together. But maybe I knew what was going on there. So this is definitely one I want to read, partly because of that. And he's good at crime as well, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. There's a booktuber that I respect a lot who said that one stopped him from reading it. I think it was Troy. I think Troy said he didn't like the characterization of the black character in it, I think he said. So my radar's now up for that, so I might notice that this time. But I haven't read this before anyway. But yeah, Troy, I saw your video about that. I think I commented, in fact. And then I'm also going to read The Long Walk, because this was one of his Richard Bachman books, and one of his older ones, but it does get a really good reception. A lot of people like this, and it seems like something I'd like. I don't like this edition. It's like long and thin. It's a bit weird, and the words are right next to the margin, which is a bit silly. But there we are. I like the cover. I like the cover, but I don't like how long and thin it is. So anyway, this is the version of The Long Walk I'll be reading. I'd like to get, which I used to have actually. Well, I used to have this in my 20s. I used to have the Backman books, which is when all those collected, and in those days it would have featured the one that he's now banned. And I would like to read the one that he's banned. I absolutely get why he's done it, but I'm still curious. So if I see that out in the wild, I will get that. But anyway, I'm going to read The Long Walk, and then the other one I'm going to read next is Gerald's Game. So another one that's very popular, and I haven't read that yet, and I know the premise, and it does sound really interesting. So I'm going to read that one next as well. And then that'll be another bunch of King to add to the other ones I've read. And he's just awesome. I think he's quite reliable, I think. I don't think I've ever read anything that I've hated. There's some that I've liked more than others, but yeah, I think he's quite reliable, and he's just a really good storyteller, and he's great at writing characters. He's great at depicting a town, which is why I particularly like Salems Lot and Needful Things. And yeah, he deserves his reputation, I think. So anyway, that's a little Stephen King video for Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Walking with the queen.